Hello everyone, I'm back again for Moonshire Monday. Still haven't missed one. It's been months now, several months of non-stop Moonshire Mondays, and I'm very proud of that. Thank you all for joining. We got a few people in chat. I'm gonna get a few seconds. I know that there's a bit of a latency delay between the start of the stream and right now at this moment, so I'll give it just a few seconds for that to pop up. But I do see Ravy. I do see Nada. Actually, I'm gonna pull up. Okay, there we go. I'm just making sure all that's there. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and show some of this. Yolvin, welcome. I made the slimes blue, so they used to be like these pink-purple, but just for the theming of this area, I made them blue. I also think I'm gonna make them like explode into big, like a big slime blast that you have to avoid. Because right now they're just like really basic. It'd be cool if they turned into like little bombs or something. Oh, that doesn't make a sound. I need to fix that. That's supposed to like unlock the elevator. Zohaib, we got Suli. Wait, I need to pull up the full chat. Vixie, Crown Sheep, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for being here today for another Moonshire Monday. And today, I think I'm going to do more bug fixing. So last week, I worked on a bug. I worked on the pathfinding bug, which I might as well show how that turned out. Because I spent the whole stream on it, and I was like not even interacting with chat at all because I was so focused. It was kind of dumb. So I'm going to try that again. But this time I'm gonna bug fix, but actually be able to focus. Because my problem was that I was working on these bugs, but they were really complicated and difficult, and it took all my concentration. So there's plenty of easier things I can work on today that won't be as much of an issue. We got Val Design. We got, oh, I already talked about Crown Sheep and Vixie. Thank you so much for being here again. I'm going to put that tree back and that enemy. So in the map, I'm going to go all the way to C3. And the way the trees work is kind of dumb, but you just take one of these pointers, and I'll put it right here in the middle. So what I'm testing right now is to make sure that enemies can go around obstacles. So if I leave this area and come back, that tree should be there. The cheese community. Hi, this is my first Moonshire Monday. Well, welcome in. Thank you for being here. So last stream I talked about this, what is this? This pathfinding thing I was working on. So if I spawn one of these slimes. Whoa. Oh, this one's red. That's really funny that I have the blue slimes and the red slimes. But anyway, he should still have, yeah, look, he moved around the tree. So I think I can show the sight of it too, yeah. So you can see the lines it's making. And if I go hide behind the tree, it's going to start pathfinding its way around the tree. Oh, that's actually really smart. Yay, it works really well. Yay, I'm really happy about that. Okay. All right, we also got Adele, Adam, welcome in. And let's see, what should I talk about next? Oh, well, so that was the pathfinding thing I worked on last week. And the problem was, last week, I was just focused on that issue and nothing else, and it was ridiculous. I needed to do a little bit better. Defected, welcome in, thank you for joining. I'm gonna get rid of this tree that I was doing. So my thought is that today, I'm just going to go through the demo as it is and just fix things as they come up. Have I thought about adding a new dummy variant? Not exactly. One thing that I would like to do with the dummies is make it so that they'll like have a health amount. So if you hit them for 10 damage, they'll like explode and then they'll respawn. Oh, this is the new intro, by the way. It doesn't have the music because I turned it off, but it's just a short little cutscene. The reason I'm playing this is because I need to start a new file in order to get into this. Moonshire is going to be Game of the Year 2025. I would love that. That'd be very, very cool. but it still has a lot of work to go. So the reason I did that is because I have this new area, or this starting area, I should say. And I guarantee if I go through the game bit by bit, is it a spoiler? Not, no, it's just the opening cutscene. It's not a problem. And plus, it's probably still going to change a little bit. So, I was playing this earlier, and there's just bugs galore. All kinds of bugs. And I think that I could just go through and fix them bit by bit so that once I release this version, by the end of the month, by the way, I want this to be playable by the end of the month. I think it will be. But there's so much I need to redesign. I have so many new ideas. The big thing is just that the level design keeps changing so much and so frequently. So there's a few things with the AI, I think. Oh, I know one. So we're definitely going to see one bug in this fight here. So he's going to jump around. And look, he jumps right on the edge of the water. And he needs to be smart enough not to jump into the water. I bet I can trick him into jumping like directly into the water. See, like he stands on the water. That's so weird. Yeah, he stands on the water. I need to make it so that enemies can swim. That's a little bit difficult, but what I can do is make it so that they can't jump in the water. So if I change it to... Let's see, this is enemy tile. Enemy tiles. So the way enemy tiles work is this is the file where it picks a tile to jump to. And I think it's going to happen here. Set action tile specifically. Enter's fine. Set dest pin. Approach. Attack. Intent is retreat. Choose tile. Okay, so actually it's in this choose tile function. Or make them drown. So they're actually aquatic, so they come out of the water. I am going to make them be able to swim. But right now I need to make it so that they don't choose to accidentally jump into the water. And I can do that here in this file. If args and args.field. Field index list. What does this mean? Field index list. Oh, I see. Args.field. I see. This is fine. This is going to stay like this. Viable pursuit index list. So I was wrong. The file that I need to look at is actually in tile states. So tile states, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm actually going to go ahead and show this because tile states has tile states. I showed this last week where if I turn this on, we'll see all of these circles. And this just represents the line of sight. So like behind this fence, all these dots are purple because there's not a clear path through the fence. But if I walk around the fence, you can kind of see the circles become more visible as I go around. So that's the point of these tile states, is they're doing like line of sight with the player. And what I'm doing in this file is in this file I should say, is I'm looking through all those dots to find a viable point to jump to. But if we go down to the map below us, which is going to be a little bit buggy looking. Yeah, because this guy's just standing here. Don't mind him. We can see that there's water tiles too, like all these blue ones down here. Those are tiles that are completely in water. And actually, I don't know why these aren't. That's weird. Why is it doing that? Huh. That's really strange. That's really, really weird. I think it's because... Wow, it's right on the border. I think that's why. That's really strange. And you put in the corners of this water. Which engine am I using? It's a game framework called Love 2D. But this map editor is called Tiled. It's like a generic map editor. So let's export that. Is this default? No, I've actually never used default. If I respawn this map, surface D3. Okay, that did fix it with the blue tile. But anyway, I didn't fix it over here though. I'll fix that bug later. That's not really a problem. That's kind of a weird one, though. That's really strange, actually. So what's happening is that the tile states happen right in between these fields. So yeah, that's actually a little bit of a problem. I'll think about that. I might make water just a tiny bit bigger than it's supposed to be. So if I go to water, no, field. So width and height, I think I'm gonna make local buffer equals, I'll give it a 1 pixel buffer. Let's do 2 pixels because that makes it a little bit easier. And then we're gonna subtract buffer divided by 2. And same here. Whoops. And then width is plus buffer and plus buffer. So that's going to make the water a little bit bigger. TK4TK, welcome in. Thank you so much for being here. Must be a rectangle. Can't we trace the boundary? Yeah, so that's another thing that I could do, is that instead of making it rectangles, and I really should do what you're suggesting, is making it so that you can use polygons, which you can do in tiled. You are able to do that. So if I turn off that, let's say that I was working in here, ideally you'd be able to do something like this where you, how do you do this? Oh, it's like this with the polygon. So you would like trace it and use diagonals like this. Yeah, that's actually really nice. So I should do that at some point, is making it so you can put in polygons. And that would make the edges a lot better. Yeah, that made a nice little shape. But yeah, at the moment I kept it as rectangles, which is fine. It works okay right now, but it will be better once I put in polygons. Am I coding with Lua? I thought you were using Unity. Nope, I've never actually used Unity. Or I should say, I tried to when I was in college. I learned it a little bit, but nope, I've never made a game with it. So let's fix that. So all I did in this code is I made it so that all of the water areas are slightly bigger than what I configured them to be, and that helps prevent any of those overlaps. So I think that is going to fix that problem I was just showing off. How am I going to fix the jump? I see a solution by creating a polygon or line up with maximum distance, or if you find something, jump until you haven't found a wall or water. How am I going to fix the jump? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by fix the jump. Which jump? Oh, are you talking about... If you're talking about the, the enemy tackle, I think is what you're talking about. And I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing about that, but I'll think of something. First, I'm doing the tile state thing. Okay, so that fixed all the water tiles. So the point is, the enemy shouldn't jump to any of these blue tiles because that's water, and that's fine. Okay, sorry. No, you don't have to say sorry. So what I'm going to do is in tile state, there's a viable pursue tile index list. Pursue tile index list. Okay, so I am doing an in-water test for... Oh, this is tricky. I don't actually know. Who the heck goes in Lua but Chads? Yeah, me. I love Lua. So I'm struggling a little bit with this. Choose viable pursuit index list. So I think this is where it's doing it, but it's already checking to see if it's in water, because it did that a second ago. It says not T in water. So I'm wondering if there's... I'm wondering if... I think that when enemies are jumping around, they're actually trying to go to a specific field. T.field. What the heck does that mean? Tile states. Oh, okay. It's just looking for any tile states that are not nil and field. That's fine. Hi, I'm new here. Can I ask why you prefer Lua than C#? That's a good question, and really it just comes down to personal preference. So when I was figuring out which game engine I wanted to work in, I just tried them all out. And the one that I liked the most was this one. So that's the main reason why I use Lua, just because I like it the most. So that's my advice for everyone. Is just choose the one that you like the most, and that's the best one for you. Because you can make games, you can make good games in any engine. I mean, I was watching videos about Fear and Hunger the other day, and that game was made in RPG Maker. It looks really like janky and old school, but that game is so popular and everyone loves it. So if you can make a successful good maker, you can make a good game in anything. So it doesn't really matter too much which one you choose. But the big ones like Unity and Godot are really good choices because like they're well known and big, and they have lots of features, and there's lots of support and tutorials out there for using it. That's a big pro. The learning curve with Lua and Love2D, Love2D or a framework specifically, it's higher learning curve, steeper than Unity, for example, just because you have to do everything through code. You do kind of have to know what you're doing in order to make. In my opinion, I really like working with Love2D. It's just, it makes sense to me. And that's the thing, is that if it makes sense to you, then stick with that one. That's the main thing. The stream keeps up buffering. I'm sorry about that. If anyone else is having stream buffering issues, let me know. I don't think there's anything I can do about that, but I will see if there is. I know that it kind of goes through waves of success, right? In water. I think this is actually working. I might have actually fixed it when I fixed this buffer problem. You use C# and monogame? Nice. I like C# and monogame. I just like frameworks in general. It really clicks with me. Monogame is a little bit more tedious to use, but it has more features, so I like that. And also, C# is probably better for most people, just because object-oriented programming is pretty intuitive for game development. Try enough languages, and none will matter but the actual one you like. Yeah, that's true. The other thing is, a fixation on language isn't important, because they're all so similar that once you know one of them, picking up another one is pretty easy. Like, once you know C#, you basically automatically know Java. If you know Lua, you'd be able to pick up Python pretty quickly. There's a lot of similarities between a lot of these. And the fundamentals carry through across all of them, too. Hey, is it possible to make a 3D game in Lua? Would you try making a challenge video on it? That's a cool idea. And it is definitely possible. In fact, there are 3D engines specifically for Love2D. Love2D 3D game or 3D library. Yeah, this is called Love3D. So any of these, I know that there's. Let me click on some of these and see if there's a good one. Does anyone have any suggestions on ones to check out for Love2D 3D? Is Lua not object-oriented programming? Not exactly, but it does have tables which are so flexible. You can basically treat the whole game as if it is object-oriented programming. So, for example, I guess I could show off one. What would be a good one to show? Probably the enemies, actually. So the enemies are separated into their own stat files, so like the Bunyip enemies. This is all configuration specifically for the Bunyip, but all of its code is run like generically through the enemy.lua file. And you can see that it has like enemy.class, and it loads in that specific enemy stuff from the appropriate stats file. And in a sense, it behaves like object-oriented programming, but it's not technically, I guess. What does object-oriented mean? It means that you don't have to copy and paste your code between different similar things. So I'm going to pull up an example, actually. Let's see. Let's go to this. Oh, I need to find a good example. I'm just gonna manually put in an example in this place here. So, for example, there's two types of trees, or there's lots of types of trees. So there's lots of types of trees in my game, but they all behave very similarly. So I have two trees right next to each other right now. And there's this one on the left, the blossom tree, and then there's this big, like, giant oak tree on the right. And they have the same properties, they have the same behaviors. They are solid. I can hit them, and I can roll into them, and they're solid. And they have, like, depth to them. They have an animation. So all of those behaviors are the exact same thing between these trees, right? So it would be dumb for me to make a file called blossom tree and a file called oak tree. Instead, I just have one file called tree, and there are different classes of trees that create different objects. There's one class for tree blossom, and there's one class for tree big. They both are considered trees, but they have different stats to them. They're different classes. So if I find blossom in here, like, this is why it's pseudo object oriented, is that it's just kind of like a section here that clarifies which type it is, as well as the specific configurations. And then here's the big oak tree. It has its own stuff, like it has its own width and height. If we look at the physics of these two trees, they have different dimensions. This one's clearly bigger than this one, and again, that's all the object-oriented thing. So the idea behind object-oriented programming is that you are combining code into classes where these are both tree classes, but they have different properties. They are both, let me rephrase this. The parent of these two objects is a tree, but they have their own individual child properties, like their own individual width and their own sprites and stuff. That's what makes it object-oriented, is it's reduction and repeated code for similar objects. I hope that kind of answered that question. The shadows are another tree, is different shape than the shadow on this tree. What was you using Love2D game engine? Wait. I'm using Love2D game engine, though you do pure code. Well, so that's kind of the difference between a game engine and a game framework. Is that a game engine, you do everything in the engine. So, like, if you have Unity open, you are able to just, like, create stuff, drag stuff in, change properties in, like, the sidebar. Everything is built in the engine. But a framework isn't like a program that you run. A framework is just a series of coding libraries that you call. So if I go to main.lua, we can see this especially. Love.load. This is creating the instance of the game. And again, it's just loading through love. Love handles, like, the window. It handles rendering graphics. It handles like interacting with the OS. It handles the file system. It handles just a whole bunch of fundamental things that a game needs in order to run. And by leveraging that, like, baseline, I'm able to just take those libraries and build on top of it. Like, they handled all the mundane, boring stuff, like, oh, this is just, all this code is doing is making it so that the window pops up, or this code makes it so that the window can be dragged around on the screen. There's just so many low-level, basic, fundamental things that a game needs to just actually function on a computer. And that's what makes a framework so useful, is that it handles all of those easy, simple things. No, I shouldn't say simple things. It handles all those mundane, fundamental things. And then I'm able to just build my own game on top of it. Yeah, they handle all the boring stuff, as you'll then put it. I agree. That's probably how I would put it too. And actually, I can go ahead and delete that. I can go ahead and delete these trees now because I was able to demonstrate that. All you need is love. That's, I'm gonna steal that. So another thing I want to work on at some point, I don't know if I'm going to do this on stream because it's going to be a little bit clunky, but I'm going to change the controls for like the 90th time. So, oh, I also need to turn off these tiles. If you're familiar with some of my videos, I've talked about the control scheme a lot, which is, where is this, in draw? I've talked about the controls a lot. There was a point where I was trying to make it so the game only had 2 buttons. It had an attack button and it had a dodge button. But I think I need to put the pickup button back in. Is that a map editor? Yeah, so white theme map. Oh, I wonder if there is a dark theme on this. There might be. Preferences? Interface? Theme. Oh, there is. Oh, I don't like that. So that's even wider. How about I make this like... I'm manually changing the colors now. I don't know if this is gonna look good. Let's make it like a dark maroon. Ooh, that's nice. That is nice. We're gonna keep that. Okay. Looks like you won't be too blind. The red's actually a little bit distracting. I'm gonna change it to something... I'm gonna change it to a blue, so it matches the blue highlight. I'm gonna make it like a dark purple. I need to desaturate this a little bit. Oh, that's good. That looks way better. Past, welcome in. Thank you. White themes are superior. Just make Calp Stew. No, definitely no spamming, please. Yeah, the dark theme is way better. Although it does make it harder to see these tiles over here. That part is a little bit worse. No, it's fine. It's fine. I can still see everything fine. Yeah, that's not a problem. Actually, I can kind of see some of the details a little bit better for like some of these sprites. All right, I'm going to add PvP. So I'm going to add multiplayer co-op, and maybe I could add a little section where you can fight each other. I think that'd be fun. So I think back to Castle Crashers. I loved Castle Crashers when I was a kid, and that was a co-op game, but at the end of certain levels, you could... or there was a little competition section where you had to fight each other. It was just a little fun thing, and I think something like that would be great. Any advice on how to get a sprite artist? So I found my artist through... So I found one through Twitter, because I was browsing Twitter for like hashtag pixel art, and people post their artwork all the time, and people say, I'm open for commissions, or if you just see someone online who makes good artwork, just reach out and say, if you're interested, I'm working on a game, and I'd love to commission you. And make it clear that you're paying, because that gets people's attention too. A lot of people like reach out to these folks and they're like, hey, can you make me something for free? And they're like, no, I'm busy. And that's true. Like, these are real people with real lives. So if you're offering money, they tend to respond at least. Maybe you could play catch with the boomerang. That's a funny idea. Every digital artist on social media open commissions. Yeah, I think that you'll be able to find plenty of people, especially on X. That's my go-to place for finding people. But also through Discord, I've found people, because Tony, one of the artists on the game who made like the main menu, I found him through Twitter just because or not through Twitter, excuse me. I found him through Discord because he was just involved with the server, and I saw that he made really good artwork and asked him to help out with something. Cats? Oh, I would love to put cats in the game. I have a cat of my own. I don't know where she's at, actually. She's somewhere here. But let's see, what else can I work on? I think I'm gonna work on. Let's just go through each of these levels and make sure that nothing's messed up. I think there's a few things that are messed up. I need to work on the UI. This is unfinished. This is really unfinished. Yeah, these two tabs don't even have anything on them. I need to figure out what to do about the accessibility options, because I made a video earlier about how I added like a god mode where you could give yourself infinite health and give yourself tons of power and stuff. I don't think I'm going to have that in the game. I think I'm going to change it to something a little bit simpler, but make it a debug option to give yourself that sort of stuff. Lots of art being posted in Discord, not just by me either. Yeah, there's lots of people on Discord, and the people posting on Discord tend to be really open to direct communication. Does Love2D have a UI system directly built in? If it does, I don't use it. All of this UI stuff is custom coded by me, and it's probably one of the biggest pain points of the game is that all the UI, it's a lot of work, and it's messy, and I've redone it a bunch of times. In fact, I need to redo it again because there's so much code in here that's just not used anymore. And also, this is one of the biggest files ever. This is 2,700 lines long. And this isn't even for all of it. This doesn't include the pause menu. The pause menu is its own 700 line file. Shark Sparrow, I just notified that you are live while I'm coding my game too. Awesome. Well, that's good vibes then. Cheat codes, yeah, basically cheat codes. So in Celeste, that's a go-to like option for accessibility. That's a go-to example for accessibility, I should say. That one has a menu where you can like give yourself an extra jump and give yourself invincibility and things like that. It's stuff that really breaks the game, and I think it's fine having that stuff in there. But what makes Celeste special is that it clarifies before you turn it on that this is not how the game is meant to be played. It's like this is for people who really need it. You can turn it on if you need to, but if you can play without it, please play without it. I think that's the best way to approach it. But I also don't want to make it simple, and that's kind of the problem with my old system, is that it was just too easy to turn on and too inconsequential. So I think there needs to be a little bit more stakes to it. Marine Official says, I'm a sprite artist. Yeah, if you're a sprite artist and you're looking for work, definitely start a social media of some kind. Either a YouTube channel where you show yourself making the artwork, or an X profile, or Blue Sky, or wherever people are posting now. I don't even keep up with that stuff anymore. But make a profile and post there like once a week and build up a portfolio, because really your social media is your portfolio. If I'm looking for a sprite artist, I'm going to need to see their artwork before I contact them. Like I don't contact people without seeing their artwork, because I don't actually know if they're good or not. Because the thing is, a lot of people will contact me directly and they'll say, hey, do you need help making sprites for your game? But they don't send any artwork, they don't send any profile with them. And I don't know if they're actually a good artist or not, because some people are farther along in their journey than others. And really, if I'm hiring an artist, I would need them to be a better artist than I am. Otherwise, I can just do it myself. So if it turns out that they message me and their artwork is like on the same level as mine, then I unfortunately just have to pass up on the opportunity, because I need someone that can do artwork that's better than what I can do. Ah, we got a freaking spammer. Bro, you loser. Someone on Twitch. How do I get rid of this? We need to ban. There we go. All right, back to work. So what I was going to do in this stream is just go through one by one to figure out what needs to be fixed. So that's going to happen. Oh! Let's fix this. Okay, so I just crashed the game. Showcase 106. Attempt to get length of field map. Okay. So, showcase. Ray Butler, welcome in. So, on line 106, I crashed the game. Number showcase.map. What the heck is this? Oh, oh, well, that's dumb. That shouldn't be... Oh, okay. I can fix this easily. I can just say, if not showcase.map. Or... So what was happening is that showcase.map was being reset to nil at some point, which is fine. I think it should be. But when you try to check the length of nil, it crashes the game. So you can't do that. So before I actually do this check, I added this line right here. It says showcase.map. So if showcase.map doesn't exist, it's not even going to bother checking this. It's just going to go ahead and do this, which is what I want. So that should fix the crash. I'm going to go ahead and try that again. How many wishlists do I have on Steam? I don't know. I haven't checked it for a long time, but it's a lot. I won't say specifically how much it is, but it's over 10,000. But that was a long time ago that I checked, so I think it's a lot more than that now. Let's see. What did I... Oh, it was the return to main menu. So if I go back to menu... it didn't crash the game, but it did cause this to go blank for some reason. That's weird. I think there's something wrong when I return to menu. Return, where would this be? Menu. Pause, exit to menu. New UI stop, pause, stop. That's fine. Curtain call main menu, that's good. So then curtain call, curtain main menu, return to menu. Okay, so there's this function called return to menu. That's good. That's what I like. There it is. Create new save. Oh, that's the problem. That's the problem. I figured it out. So we don't use the background anymore. We use this showcase start. That's the problem. So no more background set. Whoops. Do I need... I don't think I need to start the music. I think the menu starts the music. Let's just get rid of this, and I'll add it back if I need to. I don't think I need to add it. Please don't spam, please. I'm very confused whether to learn Godot or Love 2D. They both look appealing. Try them both out. That's my advice. Genuinely. I would download Godot and make, like, Pong. Or make Space Invaders with it. Something really easy. Something really, really simple in Godot. Try that. And then download Love 2D. And then do the same thing. Make Space Invaders in Love 2D. And then after you do that, try and decide which one you prefer. And then make more games with that. And if at any point you feel like switching back, then go ahead and switch back. Because the thing is, you'll build up skills in one, and those skills will transfer a little bit. It's okay. It's much more important that you enjoy what you're doing and enjoy the process. Because if you're forcing yourself to use Godot just because someone online told you to use Godot, and you don't enjoy using Godot, then you're not going to enjoy game development, and you're not going to finish a game. So just choose the one that you like the most. A lot of people do like Godot, though. I think that you'll like it, too. Yeah, they are very different, too. So that's the other thing, is that you might just need to give it a shot to see if you prefer a framework, then going in that direction is one way. And if you prefer the engine, going in that direction is another good option. But you can't really go wrong. They can make good games, any of them. What engine is this? I'm using Love 2D. How you doing? Can't beat the beast after dungeons. Yeah, the things need to be balanced a little bit. What pixel art size do you use? I'm assuming 16-bit. And how do you scale your pixel art? So, the tiles of the game are 16 by 16. So all of the environmental tiles are 16 by 16. But the characters and stuff don't follow a specific size parameter. They're all just whatever. But in general, I tend to stick around the 16 by 16 size just because that's what the size of the tiles is. I think that makes it a little bit easier to work with. And as far as scaling, the game scales perfectly to any resolution. It doesn't really matter. I worked a lot on that. So I have the window this size, or I can have the window this size. It scales fine. Or I can scale the window down to be a little square like this. That's also fine. And that's kind of the way it works. Oh, so let's test and make sure that I fix that bug. If I go back to the main menu, exit to menu. Okay, we're back to normal. So that did fix that bug with the return to menu thing. That's why I use SDL, not an engine. Yeah, it's always whatever you like the most. And everyone has a different like background that makes certain things easier than others. You're having trouble scaling everything? Yeah, it's tough figuring that out, but a few pointers for scaling is make sure that you have the interpolation set properly. So in my game, scale, yeah, default filter. So when you're scaling any graphic, any sprite, you're going to use a filter to scale it. And it's also called interpolation. So I can demonstrate this with a little pixel art, for example. Let's pull up an actual sprite. I've demonstrated this before, but I really think it's a good demonstration on how scaling sprites works. So if I pull up a sprite, let's do... yeah, let's just do the slimes. I like the slimes. They're good. They're good slimes. In your country, it's already evening. Yeah, we get a lot of people from around the world. So what I was going to say is that with scaling, there's always a filter being applied to the scale, and that's called interpolation. So if we go to sprite, we go sprite size, and then let's say that we double. No, let's quintuple 500 by 500%, or 500% increase. And if we're using this nearest neighbor method, it's going to scale up perfectly. So like we scale out, it still looks like perfect pixel art. It scaled up each pixel basically with no filter at all. But if we try that scale up again, but we use a different filter, let's say sprite size, we're going to do the same 500, 500. But instead of nearest neighbor, let's use bilinear. This is a different interpolation filter. It's going to be blurry. Look how blurry that is. And in my game, if I turned off that filter, if I turned off this filter, the game is going to look blurry. Look how blurry it is. It might be hard to tell on stream, but the game is very blurry. Well, the sprites are. The actual tiles actually are fine, but the sprites themselves are blurry because the scaling interpolation was set to like that bilinear filter. But when I set the default filter back to nearest, like I did here, where I did nearest neighbor, that's what makes it scale so cleanly for pixel art. Is it linear filtering? Yeah, I think that nearest neighbor is just considered linear, just because there's no filter at all. Maybe I'm wrong about the actual terminology. Can you still see the background of the map if you scale the window too much? Yeah, you can actually. I'll show you. So if I scale the game down like this, maybe even more. Yeah, there we go. So I scaled the game down into a very skinny window, and you can see like the petals off screen a little bit. You can see the background. It's just a black background over here on the left. Hey, you can even see my little HUD over here. But this is just seeing off into the background because I scaled the window in a way that just shows off screen a little bit. Suganthan, please do not spam. Can't beat the beat after dungeons. Are you talking about the electric boss? Because if so, I mean, the only real tips I have is, what would I say? It's always about backing off of the boss whenever you know they're about to attack. Moonshire, welcome in. Thank you for joining, Moonshire. So I'm going to go back to looking for bugs to fix. I am glad I fixed that menu bug, because I noticed that earlier. Yeah, no way. Moonshire in the flesh here with us. Get good. I mean, kind of. My game is not balanced very well, so that's not anyone's particular fault. What game engine am I using for this game? It's called Love2D. You've been taking notes from my videos for a while, so it's great to be able to bridge some of the more basic stuff. Yeah, I'm happy to help. I love answering questions. I love answering simple questions or helping people get unstuck, because I think a lot of problems that people have are common across all frameworks. I want to talk about another problem, actually, that a lot of people have, but no one knows how to fix. No one except for me, I should say. I shouldn't say no one except for me, but it took me years and years and years to figure it out. So, it's... Oh, where is... I'm looking for a specific file, I'm sorry. Let's go to terrain. So, I don't know how I can demonstrate this very well. So if you look closely at my tiles here, you can see that I add like this extra pixel on the edge here. There's an extra buffer of pixel for a lot of these tiles. They just have this extra pixel at the top, left, right, and bottom. And that's to help with tearing, because the way that these tiles are separated in engine sometimes is slightly imprecise, where it goes past this blue line slightly. And if there's no color there, it just shows blank, which that's what shows up, or that's what causes the tearing for my games at least. And maybe we'll be able to see if I get rid of this one. I'm gonna see if we can trigger any of the tearing. Even if we can see it, it's gonna be very hard to see on stream because it's gonna be so small. But if I get rid of that, I bet that if I reload the game and walk around, we'll see a little bit of tearing. Oh, we do. It's so subtle, but look closely at the grass. Maybe I can make it bigger. It's very, very hard to see. Maybe if I make it smaller, it'll help. No, it's not really helping. It is happening, though. It's super, super subtle. I wish I could make it more obvious. But if you look really closely, like look at the grass around the player, like the background, you'll see this black line appear sometimes. It's super small, super subtle, but you can see it. Oh, you can see it all over the place. Whenever the camera moves, look at the grass. There is a black line that shows up. I hope some people can see it. It might not be showing up too well on stream. Okay, some people are able to see it. It's flickering. Yeah. So that's caused because of that slight pixel buffering issue. And if you put these pixels around the tile back, like that, it fixes the problem entirely. So whenever you have tiles, just make sure that there's a little bit of a buffer if there's not blank space. So now the problem's completely fixed. I walk around, there's no tearing at all. And it's funny because I look back at some of my old games on like Game Maker. Even in that engine, I had that tearing problem. And if I would have done this pixel buffer thing, it wouldn't have been an issue. What if you made a boss that is made out of spiky vines? I think that would be a cool idea. There's a boss that's made out of... actually, there's a boss that's kind of made out of spiky vines. I'll show it. If I go to sprites, enemies, bosses, Iris. I think this boss could be adjusted to have like the spiky vines incorporated into it. I really like this design, by the way. This is by Tony, or Tris Pixels. He's so good. This is the first boss that was made for the game, and I still need to put it back. Like I have in this version, I've torn out so much content, and I just need to rebuild it and put it back in. It's been taking a long time, but it's worth every moment. Call it a fourth wall breaking boss. Not a bad idea. Isn't it a Terraria boss? Yeah, you're not the first person to say that. In fact, on TikTok, when I first started posting videos on TikTok and I showed off the eyeball enemies, people were giving me a lot of crap for that design because they thought that it was so Terraria-like. And the funny thing is, I'd never even played Terraria. This is just an eyeball with tentacles, and I didn't realize that it was a Terraria enemy. That's the boss I took inspiration from. Awesome, cool. Yeah, I really love this boss. It's neat. It creates a rooting mechanic and continues to appear around the player that he has to defeat while without moving. Yeah, that's a cool idea. That even happens in Godot. Usually the solution is that simple. Yeah, and it's funny because you don't know what you don't know, though, is the problem. Is when you're learning something, you don't know what questions to ask. When that tearing happens, it's just unclear why it's happening in the first place. And I don't even know if someone specifically told me how to fix it. I think I figured it out myself. I think that I just was experimenting with it, and I was beating my head against the wall until I realized that this is what was happening. I'm not sure what the term would be in Love 2D, but the flickering lines is due to the UVs probably not pinned to the edge so they don't overlap. There's likely an option to set that in Love. The UVs, when you say UVs, what do you mean by that? The UVs probably not pinned. It's basically a rendering option rather than tile to pin UVs so they won't go beyond the limits they have defined. I wonder if that is referring to the camera scaling, the camera zooming. If you could define UVs, I'm not sure what you mean by that. What is happening with Steam wishlist right now? What do you mean by that? Kyle, do you think anti-aliasing stops this issue? I don't know. Let me see. Anti-aliasing. Love 2D. I'm afraid I don't know enough about that to answer that question right now. Oh, texture coordinates are U and V, X and Y. Okay, I didn't know that. So, probably not pinned to the edge. Let's check this out. Love 2D tiles pinned to edge. Because the other thing is that I don't know. So I don't think I'm going to put too much effort into that, just because this solution does work and it works really well. I think what you're describing is a separate problem. But I think I know what you're saying. What about a blood boss? That's an interesting idea. I'm going to look more into anti-aliasing as well, just to see if that is a factor here. But at the end of the day, I like the solution. The solution does work. But if there is an easier way to fix it, that would be nice to know about. I don't know if what you're describing would fix it. I think the problem has to do with the camera, actually. The camera library, because you only see the flickering when the camera moves. And actually, the camera is zoomed in to an imprecise scale factor, which I think that's what makes the flickering happen, because the scaling is imprecise. The scaling doesn't scale it up to the exact pixel amount that needs to like fit in between all the gaps. And there might be like a way to implement what you're describing into the camera code. It's just the cam library that I'm using is very lightweight. I don't think that it has any sort of features like that, where again, I'd probably need to custom code something like that. So since my solution works, I think I'm just going to stick with that. But that is a good idea to consider. On Love 2D, you have really fat performance compared to Monogame from day one, because Lua is really fast language, who was made from C++, and C# and C++ are a pain to optimize, so imagine Monogame. When you say have fat performance, does fat mean good, or does fat mean like... I actually don't know what the performance is compared to Love 2D, or comparing Love 2D to Monogame. I do have high standards for C#. I think that is optimized very well. I've had nothing but good experiences with C# when I worked in the industry, or like the software industry. Not necessarily games. Fast performance. I read fat performance and I'm like, fat, huh? Because some people use the word fat as like, yeah, that's fat, that's cool, that's good. Bro, I misunderstood. Yeah, I personally think that I don't think either of them is more or less optimized than the other, but I do think that C# is more bloated to work with in like Visual Studio, because there's a lot of supporting libraries that you need to have included. And I've personally found that, oh, and also there's the content pipeline. What did I work on at Microsoft? I worked on Microsoft Azure. So Azure is their cloud-based platform, and I worked on specific products within Azure. How low level is Love 2D? Like, how much small stuff do you code into? So I don't code any of like, so the low level stuff, that's things like creating this game window. What the heck? My computer's running really slowly right now. So, for example, the window here. I didn't have to code anything for this window or this on-close function. I didn't have to code that. The fact that it's able to render colors, it's able to render sprites, that's the engine, or that's the framework doing the rendering process. All that I'm doing is taking all those functions that it gives me and then making a game out of it. So I picked up skills for multiplayer then. Yeah, so I'm working on it. I've worked on the part where you connect two clients together through Steam. That part is working. The part that I need to work on still, though, is making it so those clients can actually play together in a meaningful way, because that is a complicated task. Because you have to worry about latency, you have to worry about communicating the clients together so that they are rendering the exact same positions of all the enemies while still calculating their own stuff individually. It is really complicated. Luajit is written in C, though. The interpreter is hand-rolled in... yeah, I with Luajit, that makes sense. It's funny because I work with all these things, but I'm not super familiar with low-level performance, like the details behind it. There's so many fundamentals that I think I'm missing in order to talk about things like performance. I understand performance on like a code level, where you're like coding things and you can say, oh, like this loop here is performance O of n squared and we need to optimize it. Like I got really good at that sort of thing because you need to be good at that in order to like interview and get into a company that way. What kind of multiplayer features do you have in mind? I'm just gonna do local and online co-op where there's just two characters. So I want to make it so that you are here and then you can have someone else playing a second character, and then you work together. So there's going to be some tricks or some tricky aspects, because the enemies right now only believe there's one player, and having two means that they're going to have separate targets. And as I was reworking all of the enemy code, I was accounting for that. If I go to enemy default, they have a target. And the target can be set to anything. It can be set to player. It can also be set to like a tile. It could be set to a specific object, which is cool. So eventually I'll be able to change it so that I could set it to player or player 2, or if in the future I had more, that'd be cool. Or maybe an NPC. Maybe there's like an AI NPC that's fighting with you. That'd be cool too. Hey, why don't you making a game engine like Godot or anything else? Well, I mean, making a game engine is a lot of work. Will you add random chances to switch targets? Yeah, I think something like that would be cool. Because in Elden Ring, you can do co-op, and the bosses will focus on one person, and then if the other person comes in and hits the boss, it might re-aggro the boss on the other person. So it'll probably flip-flop, and you'll have to figure that out. Better than solo Link's Awakening. I think that if Link's Awakening had co-op, that'd be a ton of fun. And it would be fun if any Zelda game in general had co-op. I think that'd be a really fun thing to do. So I'm hoping that my game will stand out in that way once I have that working, but it's still a ways off. I know I keep saying that. It's a ways off. It'll be here soon. It's the classic developer taking forever sort of thing. Alright, so I've only worked as a front-end developer. I know how to do back-end as well, but never done it professionally. When you do code reviews, do senior devs or anyone ever talk about O, or is it everyone knows not to make N by N? Yeah, so when I was at Microsoft, I don't think I heard a single person talk about the code complexity of anything. I don't think anyone ever has said O of N, O of log N. No one's ever said O of N squared. I don't think anyone ever talked like that. The only time I ever heard someone say that was when I was interviewing for Microsoft. Then we did talk about that stuff. So to answer your question, it's all very assumed. We all know this stuff already. So in the code reviews, they don't say this code is O of N squared, you need to optimize it. they'll just say in the code comment, they'll say, change this for loop to a if statement, blah, blah, blah. Or they'll say, instead of using a for loop to iterate through the table, create a library so that the complexity is less, or something like that. So that's what they'll do more often. They don't really talk about specifically what the complexity of a code is. They'll just talk about how can we make it better. And once it's in a good, solid place, that's all that really matters. Because code that works, by the way, works. Once it works, you're in pretty good shape as long as it scales. You're fine. It's sure there's always ways that you can optimize things, and we can go back to old code and optimize things in the future. But yeah, the way that it's set up is pretty automatic, where we just look for ways to improve each other's code so that's as optimal as possible. Even if we don't say specifically like those kinds of details. Lua is very cool because it feels great to code. He's easy for a beginner. You don't have to shoot your feet with memory management. Yeah, I think Lua is one of the easiest languages out there because there's only one data structure. It just has tables. It's super, super simple, and I love that. It's easy to pick up and it's easy to master. But I would say that since it's so simple, if you switched over to a different language, that might be a little bit more of a jump compared to, like, say, you started with C# and you're switching over to Python. Like, I think that Python is less complex than C#, for example. Two features I really like in C# are extension methods and default parameters. What do you think about them, and what other features do I like in C#? Extension methods and default parameters. I actually don't think... Well, default parameters I do use. That part is really nice. I think the main thing that I like about C# is that it has all of the nice, good, object-oriented aspects of Java, but the syntax and the way things are formatted and the overhead is so much better than Java. So what I like about C# is that it's Java but better. That's what I like about it. It's just better to work with, and I like the syntax better, and there's less, like, I call it overhead code. That's just code that makes the software work when it doesn't really do anything specific. Allfather, welcome in. Thanks for being here. You've been busy these last few days? That's no big deal. Also, it's very early where you're at, so I'm always impressed that you're able to make it at all. Lua is easy to pick up, but the second you try to understand OOP, you are lost. Well, I mean, yeah, OOP is a more complicated concept, and yeah, if you want to learn object-oriented programming, I'd say that using a language that actually supports inheritance and polymorphism and that sort of stuff, that's probably what you should be doing. But it's also important to keep things simple and easy when you're starting off. Because if you start off saying, I need to learn the most complicated stuff, then you're just going to overwhelm yourself from the beginning. And that's why, like, starting with GameMaker or starting with Scratch or something that's not even coding. Start with something that's like a drag and drop language. I think that's great because you can learn some of the fundamentals that way. And then you move over into something that's simpler and easy, and you're not going to be quite as overwhelmed. Even though, sure, you could say, oh, well, you learned Lua, you don't even know the data types, you don't even know what inheritance is. And that's absolutely true. It's important to learn those things, but it's also important to not be overwhelmed when you're starting off, because coding is complicated, and anything that you can do to make it easier is probably going to be for your best interests, in my opinion. I've met people that have differing opinions on that, which is why I always recommend people to start with something like Lua or Python, or even something simpler like GameMaker or Scratch, just because if you've never coded before, it's a big hurdle at first. It's just not something that a lot of people are used to, but once it clicks with you, it's easier to go forward from there. What is this song? Oh, it's the Yoshi sound from Mario Sunshine. I'm gonna skip this song because sometimes the songs like enter into a weird instrumental portion that just doesn't sound good as background music. I might have to get rid of that song, unfortunately. How do you handle the player physics? Because you don't just snap the player's velocity directly. This is an awesome question. And that's something I've worked on so much over the years, because there's lots of ways you can do movement. You can set movement to an immediate speed where, like, as soon as you press a button, the player's speed is set to max speed. But if you look really closely at my game, there's some acceleration period. And when you stop, the player slides to a stop. It's very subtle. But it's not just hard, strict movement to max speed, there is acceleration. And the way I handle it is actually using the physics engine, I think. Let me double check that is how I do it. Player move. The way I think that this works is let's see. I was wrong. The player does not accelerate to max speed. It does reach max speed immediately. So when you're walking around, it does look like it's just setting velocity. But when you stop, it does not just set your velocity to 0. It does allow you to slide to a stop. Please make a Moonshire open world sequel or something, because I am obsessed with turnaround sprites and would love to see your little red guy at 16 angles. That would be cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of this 4-angled approach to the sprites, because there's just like this left-facing one, this right-facing one, and then the upper variants. I love the simplicity of that. It makes designing bosses especially a lot of fun, because we can make cool designs while making it work well in this pixel world. Because a lot of games use like the cardinal directions for the sprites, and that's fine, but I find that making enemies with cardinal direction sprites really difficult, just because making attack animations that aim towards the player, it's tough. I can see how 3D Moonshire would be a good game. Oh, I would love to do that. And honestly, this style of game is my favorite style of game. So after Moonshire, I bet that I'll end up working on a game that's a similar style to it. I make my own game and your videos help me so much. I'm glad. That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that. What I use the fog effect for the ground. Oh, yeah, the fog effect. I should talk about that. So it's a little busted right now. The color's messed up, and I saw that it flashes once in a while. Yeah, it just flashed right now, just as I was talking about it. It's a texture that just rolls slowly across the screen, and then once it reaches all the way back here, it snaps back onto the bottom and goes back up. So and it also has parallax too. So it's a complicated thing to set up, but it's basically just a texture that's constantly moving, and it parallaxes with the camera. I think my fave feature in C# are struct types. It's rare to find managed language with custom value types. That's a good idea. In fact, I wish Lua had struct types, because one thing that I do that's not really good practice is, I was just talking about this end target equals player. I wish that Lua had struct types. I mean, it kind of does, because I could just make a table and have set values from it. That would be fine. But I like structs because instead of target, I would prefer, because I just have it set to a string. I'm sorry, I keep stuttering, but some kind of like target dot player. That, like, something like this is a bit more defined, because what if I ever change this string? Like, what if the string player at some point ever becomes the wrong string to use? Then I would have to find every instance of my code where I use the string player for target and change it from there. Where instead, if I was using like struct.player, that is more defined. And then if the string underneath of it needs to ever be changed, I can just change the struct. I wouldn't have to change this position every single place that end.target gets set to it. That was kind of a janky description of what I was describing, but why does the cursor have a larger resolution than the rest of the game? Yeah, the mouse does not look right. I completely agree. It looks weird. I need to fix it. I also, at one point, I made it so that you could change the size of it, but I was having problems making it work across Windows and Mac, where the sizes were different. They were showing up in different sizes between the different operating systems, and it was really annoying. So I kind of removed it. I'm gonna have to put it back. Why is the cursor... Oh, I already answered that. Have you encountered Lua's restriction on max 200 local declarations? I didn't know it had a max local declarations. That's scary. I feel like it's been a long time since someone's told you to drink some water. It has. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been over an hour. This is my jam. Dude, I love Cave Story. It's one of my favorite games. Hydrate, thank you. Yeah, I drank a bunch of water before stream, and so it's been over an hour. Did I fight these guys yet? Oh, I was talking earlier about how I want to change the controls. So I was trying so hard for a while to make it so there was only an attack button and a dodge button, and those were the only moves. Those were the only abilities you could use. How 28. So I changed it so that you use dodge to pick up weapons. So you just roll into a weapon to pick it up, and I think that's fine. I think that's fine. But what makes it weird is I have to be able to drop the weapon. So I have it so you have to hold it down to drop it. And that works okay. But then it just makes interacting with other weapons weird. And then, I don't know. I think I'm going to put the pickup button back into the game and try it with that. But I keep flip-flopping. It is crazy. It is crazy how much I flip-flop on that. How about player food and water? Probably not. I don't really like hunger systems, because a hunger system in a video game is just a timer. Like hunger in Minecraft, I think that's just a timer, isn't it? Or any sort of survival game. It's just a timer that's constantly ticking down before you need to go eat something again. And I don't really like those kinds of things. Current method looks a bit confusing. That's the biggest problem with the current method is that I keep accidentally dropping my weapon because I'm trying to dodge, or I hold the dodge button down for too long. It makes more sense in survival games, exactly. In this game, it's not really that kind of game. I don't think that some kind of timer for food makes sense here. I don't think every RPG should have survival feature in them. It's unnecessary. It works for some games where that sort of urgency adds to the experience. Because if you have a timer in the game for any reason that's counting down constantly, that adds a bit of stress on the player intentionally, right? Like Majora's Mask, the Zelda game, is constantly on a timer, and that adds to the sense of stress and urgency that the game has. Personally, I find that annoying, but it does achieve the goal of being stressful. And in a survival game, that's kind of the point too, is that you're trying to survive, which is a stressful situation, and having to be mindful of that stuff. It really does add to the experience. How much time for a good prototype? There is no good answer for that, because it all depends on the game. Because honestly, I would say that my game still is in the prototype stage. I keep changing so much stuff that it's barely even a demo. Why doesn't the fence have shadows? It does on this tile, but it doesn't. Oh wait, it does. It does, but it's not. They're not good. They're not good tiles. So, or they're not good shadows. If we look really closely, there is a shadow here. Whoops. God, I'm having trouble. Help. And then this one does have shadows here too. So it does have shadows, they're just not good. I should make them more prominent. When do you think the new demo will be out? Before the end of the month. That is a hard deadline. The new demo will be out by the end of the month. I've delayed it for way too long. I can get this game out and we can play it. I'm really excited for people to try it, because it's a lot better. Or, well, I should say, once all the jank is ironed out, it will be a lot better than the current version. How do you learn pixel art? It is just a matter of practicing over and over and over again. Because you start off and your pixel art is not going to look very good. And that's what I did, is I started off making games with GameMaker. And GameMaker had this like built-in sprite pixel art editor. And I would just like draw my own characters and draw my own environments and put them in the game. And it was so much fun. It was awesome. And all the characters were ugly, but they got less ugly the more I made. So I think that's how most people need to do it. And it's frustrating. That's frustrating advice, because that's basically me telling you that you can't make good pixel art until you do it for years. But that's the truth. That's the truth with most skills. You have to do it for a long time before you get good at it. And really, I would say that I'm good at pixel art, but not great. There's a lot of gaps in my abilities, which is why I need to hire Ellie and I need to hire Tony to help with some of the more complex sprites. Like, look at this gate. Look at this gate up here. And Tony made this gate. It's so good. Actually, this is a combination effort because I designed the shape of the gate, and then I gave the gate to Ellie, who added more detail, and then I gave that gate to Tony, who then added like the bars and the design on the fronts and the chain. So it was actually the three of us that worked on this one gate. It wasn't just one person. And this is one of the nicest looking environmental objects in the game, I think. I should do more of that stuff. It's not strictly a timer. In a lot of games, there are a lot of other factors for it, and it's really expendable. You can make something like SDV energy system. That's true. Because if energy is like just an energy meter, or for example, Stardew Valley, you could say Stardew Valley has a hunger system because you can eat food to refill your stamina. And the more like harvesting or hoeing or cutting down trees or mining rocks you do, that really drains your stamina. And you need to eat more food in order to accommodate that. I like that. I think that sort of system works really well. I'm a big fan of how Stardew Valley does the stamina. But also, Stardew Valley does have a timer in the terms of the day-night cycle. You are constantly on a timer to get your chores done before the store closes and stuff like that. So it's definitely, there's that aspect is still prevalent in all kinds of games. But you're right that a hunger system can be fleshed out to be more complicated than just a timer. I'm definitely oversimplifying it that way. How many hours a week do I work on Moonshire? At least 40, probably more than that though. And then if I'm not working on it directly, I'm thinking about it. So I'd say nonstop, but actively working, probably 8 hours a day. Sorry, I said 8 hours a week. I meant 8 hours a day. It's fun. Stardew Valley is a good game. I love Stardew Valley. Yeah, I'm a big fan. Which is funny because normally sandbox, like open kind of games, open-ended games aren't my thing. But Stardew Valley is so well made that I'm able to see past any of those annoyances. A hunger system makes me hungry to play a different game. That's a funny way to put it. I'm trying to think of a game that has a hunger system that I do like. Because like Stardew Valley's stamina system, that's not really what I think about when I think of a hunger system. I think more about Minecraft or think about like Don't Starve. It's literally called Don't Starve. So in those games, it's more of a time thing. I think. I guess I haven't played too much Minecraft. That's something that surprises people because I know Minecraft is so ubiquitous, but I haven't really played much of it. On the Discord server, we started a Minecraft server, and we played around with that for a little bit, but I didn't really get into it. What's your opinion on the Soulsborne games? I love Soulsborne games. Well, I shouldn't say that I love them because I've only played a few of them, but I played Elden Ring, and that's like one of my favorite games ever. Elden Ring is so good, and I get a lot of inspiration out of that game specifically because it's just so well made. But I'm trying to think of other Soulsborne games. Like if you consider Hollow Knight Souls-like, or me and my friend are playing Nine Souls right now. That's definitely in that ballpark. But I love that. I love that style of game. It works really well. And I would say that my game has that too. But I'm not doing any souls. There's no EXP. I don't think that stuff adds to this game, so I'm not adding that. But the combat where you have like a dodge roll and you stun enemies by hitting them and that sort of thing, I think that's still gonna be in it. You're making Elden Ring 2D now. Sorry, jeez. I'm so bad at reading. I just stutter and slur my speech so much. You're making Elden Ring 2D now. That explains a lot. I wouldn't say that because Elden Ring is super open, and my game is more of like the world is a puzzle box where the world interconnects on itself in a grid like this. It's all a grid shape, and it's all about finding how to get to each individual like cell of the grid. I'm trying to make it into like the world itself is a puzzle. What is the name of the background music that is going on right now? This is Dewford Town from Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Yeah, Zelda I'd say is the bigger inspiration for my game, but there's a lot of aspects of Zelda that I don't really like. Like I don't think the narrative is good in most of the Zelda games. I think Breath of the Wild's narrative is the best. It's the best told. But I think Zelda's plot and characters and dialogue is a bit strong, overdone. Like for example, Echoes of Wisdom, the Zelda game that just came out. I love that game so much, but the biggest problem it has is there's too much talking. There's too many characters, there's too many cutscenes, there's too much dialogue. You're constantly being talked to, you're constantly being told stuff that you can see with your eyeballs, and it's annoying. And I wish that it didn't do that stuff. I really, really wish it didn't. So with my game, I'm keeping that stuff on the down low. There's still a story, there's still a plot, and it's still important and good, but I just don't want to overbear people with it. I'm trying to read that name. This is, The Angry Barnacle. Hello, welcome in. Thank you for joining. The Infinite Bed and Echoes. I love Echoes of Wisdom. I really love that game. If they took out all the dialogue, I would love it, love it, love it. That's my only complaint about it. So Fire Emblem then. It's just fun. It's fun, but Jesus, there's a lot of dialogues. Well, so yeah, there is a lot of dialogues, but I think Fire Emblem's pacing for the dialogue is really good because most of the dialogue happens between fights. Oh, okay. So actually, take a step back. Yolvin, are we talking classic Fire Emblem, or are we talking like Three Houses Fire Emblem? Because those are two very different things. In like Fire Emblem 7, you have a lot of dialogue, but then you have a fight. And then there's not really hardly any talking during the fight unless you have like an encounter. So it's good for pacing because you alternate between the dialogue sections where there's a lot of dialogue, but then as soon as you're sick of the dialogue, it switches over to a fight, and the fight goes on for like an hour, and then as soon as you're done with the fight and you're sick of fighting, you go back to the dialogue phase. So I actually like how classic Fire Emblem has the dialogue set up. I think it's really good for pacing because it goes back and forth, but I can see how someone would say it's too much because the fighting is the part that I enjoy the most. I think it's the part that most people enjoy the most. Did you know that you can drink milk without drinking milk by just drinking milk? Huh, I did not know that. That's an interesting piece of advice. I don't know, is the 3DS considered classic? I think that Awakening and earlier is considered classic, and then after that is not. But that's a personal opinion. I could see that. I could easily be convinced otherwise on that. But I really like Awakening. I think Awakening is the best combination of classic and modern because it has all of the good plot devices of the modern Fire Emblems, but it has the classic combat, the classic maps, but it has like the pixel art characters. I love Awakening. It's so good. What made you choose Love2D for your game engine / framework? I chose Love2D because when I was learning, or excuse me, when I was figuring out which one I wanted to use, I just downloaded all of them. I downloaded Unity, I downloaded Unreal, and Love2D, and Monogame, and GameMaker. I tried them all out, and this is the one that I like the most. So that's the way I decided. It's just whichever one you like the most is the one you should use because you'll be the most likely to stick with it. You have to go sorry? Don't apologize. I mean, there's only 5 minutes left to stream anyway. I only go until 10:30 my time. One thing that I added recently is that you can attack people. He just takes it though. He doesn't care. You can attack all the people. If I add a child, will I have to make it so that you can't attack the child? Is that illegal? How did you do full screen mode? Is it window borderless or something else? So the game works Windows. So right now it is running Windows, but in the settings menu, there is a full screen option, and that changes the game to full screen. But I can't do full screen because my monitor is an ultra wide monitor, it covers like my stream and everything like that. So when I do this, this is just Windows. And then if I turn on full screen mode, then it gets rid of the borderless, or gets rid of the border. Make the child immortal. I mean, all the NPCs are immortal. Or I could make it so that if you hit them like 10 times, they explode. But then if you like leave the map and then come back, they'll be back. I might do that. That's a good idea. Yeah, I'm in game making competition, and we've got until March to finish. But one of my teammates isn't doing anything. When you have any tips to make them? That is a problem in every aspect of life. Is like when I was in school, I hated group projects because you always got that one guy. There's always that one person who just chooses not to participate. And like when that happens, I try to think about it from their perspective, and I think, why aren't they participating? And normally the answer is they just don't have any reason to. Because if they can just do nothing and the outcome is the same, then that's what they're going to do. So for some people, like in school, some people just don't care about their grades. So to them, studying for the test is the same outcome as not studying for the test, because either way, it doesn't matter. They don't care about grades. It's all the same. And like I think that's a flawed way of thinking, because I think grades are important, but that's just what they're thinking. And that problem never goes away until you reach employment, because once you're employed by a company, everyone does have to work. You'll still find people that try to cut corners, but all you can really do is do your part. It's the manager's job to make sure like everyone else's pieces are complete. But if you're in a group and like they don't have that incentive, that is a really tough problem to overcome. Because I'm thinking back to like my school projects. What would I do when I'm in a group project and one person isn't pulling their weight? I mean, you could tell on the teacher, but I wouldn't normally do that. I think that normally I just ignore it. I just let them do nothing, and then that's it. Because the consequences of them doing nothing, there's nothing we can really do. So if it's actually a problem, I think that you would need to get some manager involved, which that might be the professor or the teacher or whatever it is that you're working on. But I don't really know how to fix that, because I'm with you. Group projects are a pain in the butt, and when they don't have that same incentive to contribute, it's really hard to overcome that. Not the group projects. Yeah, I still get flashbacks big time to group projects. It is tough. I wish I had better advice for how to fix that, but I don't really know what to do when you have someone that's not pulling their weight. It's something I always think back to school, because if I was in a group project and I got paired with someone who just did not care about grades, then why would they waste their time doing a group project? Why would they waste their time like doing homework when grades don't matter to them? And I can't change their mind on that. It's the same with anything. Like, you can't give help to someone who doesn't want help. Yeah, you can try to inspire them. I think that's a good idea. But at the end of the day, it's their choice. If they're choosing not to participate, then that's their choice. I wish that there was something you could do to make that choice less good to them. I think that's the only thing you could do, is if the choice to not participate had consequences attached to it, then they might not do it. But unfortunately, if there's no consequences, I don't really know what you can do. It's a tough situation to be in. Lead a horse to water, ain't that the truth? Exactly. That's exactly the truth. And that about puts us at the end of stream. It is 10:30 my time, which means it is time for me to go get some food. Thank you all being here. It was such a good stream. Thank you for all the people on Twitch and all the people on YouTube. We got Past, Yolvin, Pancake Yo, Allfather. Thank you all for being here. It was such a good stream. And I will be back in 1 week. Oh, Concerned 8 wanted to delete his own game during the execution, but he lost. Yeah, that's. I think I remember hearing that story. Time to sleep for me. Nice. Thanks, Vixie and Iggy and Turtle. Thank you all for being here. I will be back again next week. Bye-bye.